Moo and good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pinktron. I am Brent Robinson. I am joined today by Stefan. Steph, what are you drinking?
As always, Fanta Lemon.
Perfect. And we also have Steve Pritchard. Steve, what are you drinking?
Well, I've just joined Beer 52 for the month, which is like a subscription. They post you random beers through the post thing, not an ad. And in it, with my first can from that is a tropical unicorn session IPA, which has a glorious unicorn logo. I'll take a picture and put it, I'll attach it to the comments when we post for the show later. And it says, gallop away on a fluffy clouds of pillowy oats before skipping down a magic rainbow of berries, apricot, passion fruit, grapefruit, bright orange, tangerine, mango, and coconut. So we'll see.
That
What
sounds
isn't in
delicious.
it? Yeah.
I think that was the ad right there. Like, clip it, send it to him. Like, that's like a voiceover. Let's
Yeah.
go. And that was John Keenan. John, what are you drinking?
Well, can's in the same color family, but it's basically lychee or lychee. How do you say it? Is it lychee?
I'd go
Uh,
lychee. Yeah.
Lychee, sparkling water. Little more flavor than your LaCroix. So it's kind of nice. Got
Very
I
some
mean,
good.
we
kick.
shouldn't ask Brent because he's a straver. So um,
There
Never
you
even wrote
go.
that one down. I'm gonna go look back at like some YouTube videos from DC Rainmaker. I think it was Strava back in 2016. Anyway, we also have Sean Fogenberg. Sean, what are you drinking?
I'm on the boring train today. I've got a calamansi lime sparkling water.
That's a very fun name. That's not a boring name at all. And I have tea. And so, funnily enough, like I don't know how many of you guys read XKCD. Like, do you guys know that webcomic?
Mm.
Little stick figure dudes.
Yeah.
Anyway, they had an XKCD comic this week, and it was like, how angry does your tea making make an English person? And apparently, like only a little bit is steeped in mug, but like way at the other end is like microwaved with a tea bag and water together. Just so all my English and British listeners know, I steeped it in my mug today, so you can only be a little bit angry at me. And speaking of things you can be a little bit angry about, and things that are British. Oh, that's what I should have led with. Speaking of things that are British, this week's HWR is Greatest London Flat. Um, I don't. None of us have raced yet today. I
I
don't.
did race one,
You did race
although
one? All right,
yeah,
Steve. How did race one go?
I forgot my heart rate monitor wasn't working, so I've been DQ'd sadly. But no, it was really good. Ended up in a little group with a couple of herd folks. So shout out to them. I think Paul O'Keefe was one of them. Um, I forget with London, like the lead-in's always surprisingly tough. Um, kind of whichever direction you do it from. Just some punchy little hills. So got dropped on that big group before the lead-in was finished, but then went round quite nicely. For a course that says flat, it has got some bits in it which are surprisingly hard. And also, I don't know if it's new pack dynamics or I just ended up in a group that was a bit stronger than me, but we had a couple of folks who just tried the odd little punch, sit at like 3.8 watts per kilogram and go, hey, come chase me for a bit. So yeah, it was a really nice course to go around and managed to hold with the group to the end and then lose in the sprint because I had nothing left, which is always a good sign of pushing yourself to the right level, I think.
Yeah, so this
How
is the long London lead-in, right? So the 7.5 kilometer lead-in, which goes from the pens through the banner. So you get it's normal power-ups, right? Any one of the
Yeah.
three power-ups at the banner. And then up the North Northumberland Street, and then the hard left. And I think that's the downhill, right? It goes up and then down on the hard left, back down towards the Thames, over towards Windsor Palace onto the Classique reverse direction. And then all the long flat outside stuff. I don't know what part of London is that outside stuff, like Knightsbridge or something like that. I don't know what that's all called. Anyway, back down to the Thames, down the subway into Surrey, just the flat part of Surrey, back to the start banner, and then it
flat-ish.
finishes
There
at
is a little.
Classique.
Isn't there a little
Well,
climb for that
There
first
is a little
section? And
climb.
then
There is a little
yeah.
pre-climb. So we managed
yeah.
we had two guys who I thought was in the same team, both in the Wahoo kit, but not on the same team, who'd been pushing at the front, and they'd been the guys that kind of one of them was looking really strong and would sit at sort of 3.84 every so often and try and gap us, and we'd had to chase back on. Um, and then a dirt rider, I think, attacked on that little climb, and the three of us that were in herd jerseys went onto their back wheel, and the two guys that had been pushing at the front didn't, and we managed to gap them and lose them there. So,
Oh,
um, yeah, it's long enough to the classic. You're not going to win the race there, but you could well get dropped and lose it. So,
so this would be like the start of Box Hill, basically, right at that Box Hill
yeah,
banner type area.
Mhm.
Yep. Okay. Yep.
And
Yeah,
then you
yeah.
still got the escalator coming up, right?
Well,
yeah.
you're gonna have the escalator back up, and then you're gonna have to do Northumberland Street again, back to Classique reverse to finish. Right? It's the Classique banner to finish.
It's not the regular finish banner.
I think that Northumberland Street climb isn't as hard as the climb that's you go back down to get back round to the finish banner. It's a bit flatter, it's a bit shorter. That didn't feel as tough. Like I think it's quite draftable. I mean, the other one's quite draftable. It didn't feel as tough, so I think it must just be a bit shorter.
Yeah. And the climb back up to the finish banner, like that starts from down at the river and then just till you get onto Classique and the red rocks up there. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, you basically climb up to the roundabout, go back down the hill, and then go round to the back of the course as I'd see it that you'd normally come through. Round the
Look like a
hairpin.
look like a big group in the sprint, like 22 people within 7 seconds of finish.
That's not
Yep.
super surprising. It's
Yeah,
pretty, like, I mean, as much as it is a bit rolly, it's still pretty flat
it's
for an
still flat.
HWR course to bring a whole group in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
42.
it's not one where you're going to see big separations of people.
Hmm.
If you're in a group, sort of, I got found out the group I was going to be in at the start, but there's a couple of tough bits, but the one person in our group that managed to go away just went and sat at 4.2 watts per kilogram the whole time, and we didn't want to chase them, which it's one of those classic ones. I've looked back there, they're in category A, and you kind of think, well, did you start late, or why aren't you in the group you're meant to be in? It's
I do have that experience frequently in HWR. Like, why are you here? Not like why are you racing, but like why are you racing me?
You should
All
be
Here's
right.
a
two
fun
strange,
months
isn't
down the road.
Yeah, exactly.
here's a fun stat. One of the guys who's on like an esports team, he's raced 1,296 races. I don't think I've
Whoa.
on Zwift Power. I mean,
That's a lot.
wow, that's a lot.
This is what I find
Um,
crazy with it. Exactly what you're saying. So we had a guy catch us. I assume it's a guy. Catch us doing 4 watts per kilo near the finish, but didn't then attack us. So just led us out nicely for the sprint. We all did the sprint and beat them, and they finished 8 seconds back on our little group, having not really sprinted, having sat at 3 point. They've averaged 3.5 watts per kilo for the ride.
Trying
Um,
Good
to
for you.
they're trying to tank their Zwift racing score.
Yeah, that's the only thing I can think of, like, or something like that. Because you look at Swift Power, like people doing that average watts per kilo are finishing 5 minutes up the road. So I don't understand what they've done. Either they've started late or um,
Seems
just
Mike Fit had a leisurely day was with your group. Normally should be way higher.
1,200 races is bonkers. Like I'm just clicking
Almost
through.
1,300. Like by this time next week, he will be over 1,300. He's doing like sometimes two a day.
By this time later today.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I'm just clicking through like guys who race a lot. I'm like 700. Like even this guy, this Mark Worthington, is that the guy? Wahoo Esports?
Yeah,
He's only at a thousand.
no, it's Mafat Tarek is the one with almost 1,300 races.
Yeah,
Jesus fucking
Mafa Tarek.
Yeah, like scorekeepers in the 700s. Dan Manalo's in the 700s, pardon me. Like Dan Shirameto, who I know races a lot like me. I'm in the 700s. Like that kind of that's like the what's that? Probably like 3 races a week since 2020 something type
God.
numbers.
And he started his first race was December 2020, so 4 years ago. So in 4 years, he has 1,300 races. So that's an average of 300
6 races a
races.
week.
One a
That's
day.
almost a race every day.
Yeah.
Wow. Impressive.
Man
All right.
props.
All right. Bike choice is full arrow, I think. I don't think there's anything else to
Yeah,
do.
yeah, I don't think so. Full arrow with disc.
Yep, so your fastest, slipperyest bike with fastest disc wheels. I gotta say, I hadn't really used the Zwifter bike tool until we were getting ready for that Keith Hill after party on ZRL. And
Mm.
I didn't realize how much slower the Rainbow disc was than the Arc disc. Like it's probably like whatever. I think on Keith Hill it was like 3 seconds slower, but I was like 3 seconds on the Keith Hill course over the Arc disc. That surprises me. Anyway, just I didn't. I gotta
Yeah,
say, the next race I used the Arc disc
but
to
it
teach us
makes
this.
you faster because you like it.
Yep, I did put the Rainbow back on for the TTT on Thursday night. Absolutely. All right. Anything else we want to say about Herd Winter Racing? All right, we're moving on. Herd Beginner Racing is Park Perimeter Loop.
Yep.
Yep.
Forgot, forgot what.
Yeah,
No,
three
what?
laps for A's and B's and C's, two for D and E's. And Nathan said for D's and E's, expect a fast time of about 25 minutes, with lower watt per kilogram riders approaching 35 minutes on this
Yeah,
one. Um,
it's a fun course for her beginner racing. A rolly hill with Harlem Hill with a good, would say, 90 seconds, 2 minute effort maybe. Can't recall it, but it's a decent for especially for those D and E bands, for those two lowest bands.
Yep. Um. Yeah, it's yeah. Be on the lookout for Harlem Hill. That is probably your most likely chance of getting dropped. But yeah, there's lots of little rolly stuff where it is, and this is the uphill finish at the banner, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So just and that finish, beware. I can never. I think it's go early is the key because it's downhill into the uphill. So like, don't underestimate how hard you got to be, but you want to have speed on the downhill into the uphill if you can carry it. Don't try and necessarily be coming around people. All right. Anything else you want to say about HBR this week?
but what sort of bike do we think? Full aero or slightly all rounder?
I'd probably be on the Pinarello and be
if you
slight
unlock.
more on the arrow end, like more arrow than Tron, but in that like Tron climby range.
I would be
Yeah,
Tron to Pinarello with disc, Pinarello with the NV 7.8s. That'd be as light as I'd
But yeah,
go.
I think still have to take in mind maybe for those lower categories, there are maybe lower levels in Swift. So yeah, it's
there's some really good all-rounder bikes. So the Rebel used to be really good. The Uranium Nuclear is quite low level as well. So yeah,
I think Canyon Arrow
it's
is still quite good at a low level, right?
yeah.
Mm.
Yep.
don't don't know which level the Zip 808s I think are a very arrow wheel set that I think was when I started fairly early on in levels.
Yep. Those are a good choice for sure. Good. All right. Moving on to Climber's Gambit stuff.
We're back to Scotland for the other side of the Sker, the north side, the gravel side, on City in the Sker, 3 kilometer route. Climb starts after about a K. It's 1.6 at 4-ish%, couple of steep pinches, and since it's a gravel bike, use since the gravel climb gravel bike and warm up beforehand. since it's starts after a kilometer from the pens.
What's your pacing strategy on Zgur North? I mean, it's in some ways just go, but I think there are definitely spots that if you can squeeze out a little harder, you can squeeze out a little more time.
There are a couple of steeper pinches, so would definitely push it there, and a couple of not downhill parts, but maybe you can ease it off a bit. But yeah, I think my time is in the 4.5 minutes, so it's proper VO2 max effort for a lot of people. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't know whether this is the right pacing strategy as always, but I've tried with this one and sort of start hard and then there's two stair steppy bits. So I've always tried to go really deep on the stair steppy bits, knowing that I can rest a bit on the slightly flatter bits. Um, what I have found every time I've done it is the last bit is deceptively long.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
kind of the last, I'm guessing about 500 to 600 meters is it's just longer than it feels it should be, and is quite a steady
Yeah.
gradient. So
Yeah, after you do that spiral up top and
yeah,
those last couple of hundreds, yeah, that's but yeah, if you're in your efforts, say it's a 4 or 5 minute efforts, that's the last minute, 30 seconds. So you're also in bargaining mode just to get to the top.
I would say if you're in bargaining mode, you've probably got your pacing strategy right. Like that's
Yeah.
the you don't want to have nothing left, but you don't want to have loads left on the finish line, do you?
Yeah.
So, what's the latest update in the John versus Steph Climbers Gambit battle?
What is it? I
I,
think Steph's still ahead.
I think, yeah, I said he beat me by a second, but I think we got in the same time last weekend. So I think I'm 3 seconds ahead. I'm still like 12 seconds behind the leader in the D band,
Yeah. Out of
but
five and
much
a
more
half
the game
minutes.
because the climbs are getting from next week onwards steeper and longer. It's like I said, it's going to be Lead Hill next week, and we finish off with Keat Hill, which some of you know from this week's WTRL.
I got the
So
pleasure
everything
of
to play
watching it.
for. So everything to play for it.
So it looks like 4 watts a kilo will get you somewhere around a 345 on this. And I'm guessing that the crux with the one of those gravel wheels is probably the way to go, since we are on the gravel, even though the gravel is not as gravelly as it used to be.
Yeah, I'm 99% certain all the tests show like just for that climb, gravel's still the fastest option.
Yeah, Zwift bike suggests old gravel. So
Make sure you get the fast gravel wheels if you got enough drops to get them. Get the
yeah,
either the CADX or the NV gravel wheels. Good. That brings us to herd of mountain goats.
Lucha
Lucher, Clounter
Flounder.
clockwise.
Yeah, that's the that's 2 times up Innsbruck reverse. So basically, you start at the pans, you do the reverse version as as the leading because the route starts at the top, and then you go down and you go straight up again. So short route, short route in kilometers, but it's 2 hard climbs shortly. Yeah, basically with a maybe I don't know less than 10 minutes, 10 minute downhill, couple of minutes downhill. So yeah,
I think it's full climber on that one.
yeah,
Finishes at the top, twice up it, and those are the stair steppy steep sides. So you're gonna
yeah,
want, I think, full climber. And I mean, it's basically for a lot of us, depending on the side of the field, a 2x20 workout.
yeah. For
With
me,
not
it was
nearly
close
enough
to
recovery in the middle.
yeah,
Yeah. 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 I said you're close to like 25, 26 stuff.
yeah. I think I did try to do recently 2 by workout. It was closer around 28, 30 minutes
Oh,
mark for
okay.
me.
Okay.
think my fastest time is around 28 and a half minutes.
Okay. Yeah, I can't do it under
But I
20.
also don't like that I climb the steps every time. I like the other side way more for pacing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well, it's fun either way. Get out and bring your lederhosen kit. That's always my favorite trick on anything in Austria. Put on the lederhosen.
Yeah.
All
I
right,
don't have
Stan.
it. So.
Oh no. Oh, the lederhosen kit's pretty fun actually. Uh, Stampede this week is one lap of the classic for 8.8 kilometers, including lead-in. Uh, Starts at downtown Pens, goes around the outside of the volcano into Jarvis Island, and then one lap of Jarvis Island in the counterclockwise direction. So you do have to go up that's the Jarvis forward KOM through the sprint and then finishing at the Jarvis lap banner. Is that what we call that? The Jarvis lap banner? Yep.
We are calling it, but he can't apparently use it for bullseye as a lap banner.
Oh, right, right, right. Yeah, so it's
But
it's generally very flat though. I mean, even the Jarvis KOM is 1.8K at 1.8% average. So
yeah,
full TT, full aero TT. It's 8.8 kilometers. So I think lots of people getting her done in 10 minutes. I think the fast bees can go 10 minutes, I think. No, not quite that fast. That's
I was
that's a
going to say
mistake.
10 minutes for how many
That's too
K?
fast. 8.8K, that's too fast.
Yeah, okay.
They'll be like 12 or
12?
13 minutes. Yeah. So
13's probably, yeah.
yeah. Uh, yeah. I was a bit ambitious. Um,
but there might be, and then he can become a world tour pro.
Yeah, Filippo Ganna is probably doing it in under 10.
that's probably true. Yeah, it says the Zwift Insider says at 4 watts per kilo, you do it in 13, and I think there's lots of A's that could do over 4 watts per kilos for 13 minutes. Even I can go over 4 watts per kilo for 13 minutes. So, but like 4.2.
Yeah, but it's probably taken 6 plus to do it in under 10.
Yep, exactly. Exactly. Um, yeah, so a little shorter Stampede this week. I think we're on to, oh, we got two more. Yeah, we got another shorter one next week before we get into the ugly one for the last week.
The ugly
Stampede.
one.
40K of McCurry Pretzel is the
That's
last
ugly.
week.
That's ugly.
Yep. All right, Bullseye. Let's do Bullseye this week. What's coming
Some
for
left
Craig?
of Bella seems. Don't know how many.
Um, don't know. He doesn't say. How many do you usually do? Nine. It looks like usually we do 6 laps, 7 laps.
You say so.
It's going to be quite fast if it's that. That's a
Yeah,
2K a lap.
I think it's between 6 and 8 laps, somewhere in there. Is usually good bullseye distance. Yeah, so it'll be
I'm
just
seeing 5 the last time it was on Bell Lap.
yeah. I saw Downtown Dolphin was 7.
5, 6. Yeah, okay.
So
Some amount of laps.
yep.
6 is probably a
Um,
good bet.
6 is a good bet. Yeah, so it'll be points at the lap banner. So let me remember. That's the forward direction, right? Up the cobbles and then down the rollers.
No, no,
Other
the
way?
other side.
Up the rollers,
Yeah,
down the cobbles. Okay.
yeah.
So really tough to break away from the climb to the end. So probably just sprint into the banner. It's like a it's like the right hand turn into it, right? Like you're
Yeah,
going into it, and then there's a right hand turn. It's about 180 meters from that right hand turn to hit the sprint line. So you pretty much got to wind up before that right hand turn, is my usual tip on that one.
One thing I recall Craig said, maybe it was last week, that I hadn't really thought of, is this is a great series to race if you want to practice that winning a race in that big sprint. I never really thought of it in those terms, but you get a lot of chances.
Oh yeah, absolutely. When my sprint was at its best was after I'd finished winning a bullseye after doing every single bullseye for whatever the 10, 12 weeks.
Mhm.
I, that was when I was the best at my sprinting for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, for sure.
And then the ZRL this week is on one of the new courses. So it's the finish of this series. And I looked up how to pronounce this
Yay.
course in Welsh. So it's probably not going to be right, but it's as close as my dumb American mouth can get it. So Dair Dringfa Vechan. Uh, it's like the F's are kind of like a V. So Dringfa Vechan. Um,
Nice.
Three little hills, and I like this one because it's got the weird hills, right? You've got
Yeah.
the start of the epic, like before you go up you kind of do the bypass. So you do the like bridge, the bridge of fading watts. Um, and then you do hilly KOM, but you do it in a weird way. So you do the start of hilly reverse, so that like steep kick, then you cross over the bypass and do the upper half of hilly forward,
Yeah.
and then you finish on Titans Grove reverse. So a nice that's gonna be a fun like 2-ish minutes sprint anaerobic finish um, for a scratch race. So yeah, should be a fun course.
I feel like the first one's going to be long enough that it's just going to bust things up. Like it's just going to get separated right away. And then you're going to have your group that you're spitting people out the back of on the subsequent hills.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see how hard people go there and whether there are big enough chase groups to bring things back together,
Yeah.
or whether it's, you know, one or two people at a time getting shed.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I think the thing that will determine to a certain extent how much catching there is a bit of the race tactics, like the team race tactics, right? Because if you get three, four riders in the front group after the first hill, you're
just
going to be
push.
probably not pushing, right? Like you're going to probably sit back. Now, if the other team has six, I guess maybe you'll chase. But like I'm saying, if you get three or four in the front
Oh,
group on the first
and
hill, you
you're
probably have a
behind.
lot. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
going to sit, right? You're gonna not chase. But if you only got one in the front and you got four of your guys in the second group, you're going to be trying to chase
Yeah.
that group down. So that's
Well,
going to be,
I think the other part of that is that the groups that get a bunch of riders in that front group might push at the front.
and that too, and that too. Yeah, there could. I think there's a good chance for there to be actual like races between groups where like the numbers determine which teams are at the front of those groups pushing what's going. I hope so. I hope that the teams are at least alive enough to that. I have enough experiences in Zwift that I know there's a 50% chance that it doesn't matter and everybody sits in after the climb and nobody does anything. But
Yeah.
you know,
It's five unrelated people with the same jersey all racing.
yeah. Yeah. Well, just there's the like, yeah, you don't get that many people in your group that are on the same team that you could talk to. You don't get like people who are sophisticated tactics, and people are tired and worn out. Like they just can't push,
Yeah.
frankly. But good,
So
good.
I
All
guess
right.
that actually we might want to talk about the other competition.
Yeah. Let's go.
New
Well,
route.
let's go to that. So the round three uh competition for the route design is on right now. The voting is up. The community voting closes in 3 days, and we've got a herd member who proposed a route, and it got into the final route there. Do you want to talk about that, Steph? Someone?
yeah, the final three are Titans turnaround, Olalala, and Danger Noodle. Titans turnaround is the one uh, created by Herd member Chris Wallner. Jeff Stolp uh, had a post on it on the Herd Racing Facebook page. Looks like that route starts at Jungle Pens, going to the Italian villas, through the SS, downtown, into Titans Grove, all the way until LAX. Then you turn around, do Titans Grove in the other direction, and you finish at the Desert Fuego Flats sprint. Danger Noodle is bit similar, but it starts at downtown Pens. You go to the Essex, you do that loop around the Italian villas island thing, back in through the Essex, and you basically from downtown Pens you do an out and back through Titans Grove up to LAX and back to downtown Pens. And oh la la la, it's in French, in France. It's at the France Pens. It goes through the intestines, up Petite KOM, back along the Pens, and then you take a trip into the flat bits of France with a finish on top of the aqueduct K1.
Yeah, interesting that two of the routes that they selected both featured the element of going one way through Titans Grove down to the roundabout, then back up Titans Grove the other direction.
Yeah.
Apparently, this is what people were asking for.
But it's a funny one because his one starts at the jungle pen, so basically you have a downhill start.
Yeah, which is a very I respect that because I mean I especially doing Stampede. One of the things I've always lamented is there's no like really good downhill routes, and the only way you could get one is by starting at the jungle pens. But there's no routes that start at the jungle pens and go left. They all go right into the jungle. So having jungle pens route that goes to the left, like I actually, I think I encourage people to go vote for this just so we can get this route into Zwift. So there's some route that goes downhill from the jungle pens, frankly.
There is the one that was used in Zwift games, but it went downhill to immediately go up Epic KOM.
Yeah, mountain.
Yeah. Yeah, it didn't really go down the hill. It just kind of did the first bit across the bypass and then up. Yeah. 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 So, I mean, listen, pick whichever route's your favorite, but if you don't really care, then go vote for Mr. Wallner so we can say a herd route got in. Especially since it is so similar as the other one.
Not a route you can race laps in. It's one of those starts and ends far from each other.
No, they're all technically point-to-pointers.
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, having a finish at the aqueduct is kind of interesting, but
yeah. I think Danger Noodle you could lap because you're starting and finishing in downtown Pens. Right?
Oh, you're right.
Oh, yeah. You're right. You can do that.
And it's a good name.
It's a good name. Can't go wrong there. And it should be Ooh La La, right? Not Ooh La La. I don't know what the fail there was.
That's how you write Ooh en français.
Yeah. Oh.
That's how they say it. If it looks like that, they just say Ooh. My apologies to all our French listeners. All right, that brings us to the other news of the week, which is the Zwift event cull. I think there will probably actually be some of our listeners who had no idea what we're talking about, which is actually kind of new. When we're usually talking about news, most people have probably heard it before they hear it from us. But
yeah, I think there's a Zwift Insider article, isn't there, where Eric talks about it as well. But basically, James Bailey, formerly of this parish, and Zwift, have had a look at the racing calendar, and they really want to tackle or improve what they call race density. So, what do they mean by race density? They've looked at the calendar and gone, there's a lot of races on Zwift. It's great. You could log in now, and if any of us opened up the companion app, there will be a load of races in there. What's less great is the number of folks who are in each of those races. So I think we've all said a lot of times on here, Zwift racing is really good fun where there's a big field. It's really good fun where you have consistent people who you race against, who you can have little rivalries with each week. So how do we kind of promote that happening? Um, and they've basically taken the decision to look at all of the race events happening. If there's less than 30 participants on average per week, then they're going to move them to be club only events. So you'll still be able to do them. You'll just have to access them through your club page. And if it's a time trial or hill climbing event, they've made that number less than 20 participants a week. They have applied this to the Zwift hill climbs, to the Zwift community races as well. So the idea is a big declutter of the racing calendar, and the goal being that it improves participation per event. So if you jump into an event, there's a good field, there's a good number of people in your category for you to race against. It does mean that some herd events are going to be affected. So kind of we're going to talk a bit more. We'll talk a bit about that, but yeah, that's sort of it in a nutshell, really, isn't it? That's the plan, and you should see the changes as of December the 16th. So Monday, the Zwift calendar is going to look quite different when you log in the companion app.
And if there's anything that you are expecting to see and you're missing, you go look for it in that club's page.
And is it all events? That I've heard different things. Is it group rides or just races or
I think it's racing. In his email, James refers to the public racing calendar.
that's
So I
kind of
think
what
that is
I
going to be things that
okay.
are defined as races. Um, the impression I get is that group rides are kind of quite well attended, but
Mm,
and he does it's consistently refer to it as racing events in the
okay.
email he sent out as well. So
I feel like they already did something on the group rides some time ago that just we didn't. None of the herd ones were affected. We have lots of numbers in group rides, and they get more numbers in general. So
Yeah.
and it's way like it's. I think the other thing about the group rides is just like there's way more of them that are just organized like as like, oh, let's all just get together and stuff. So like pushing it into like clubs is just not as dramatic as the race
Hmm.
stuff, frankly.
Hmm.
So yeah, so the in terms of specific herd races, if you race HWR herd winter racing or HBR, there you won't really see a change, other than hopefully more people show up. But if you race bullseye, everything will be into the club except for the 1855 UTC race. Um, in all climbers gambit races are now into the club, right, Steph? I've got that right.
Yeah.
Mountain goats, the UTC 1500 and 1630 times have survived, and Stampede, only Zone 5, the 1805 UTC race has survived in the public calendar. Everything else will be into the club after that. So,
So they
um,
went race by race, not series by series. That's
Yeah.
yep.
Yeah.
interesting choice.
Yeah, and if perchance one of these like you got in your club event, you started getting a bunch more attendance because you promoted or whatever, and they all showed up, they would put it back on the public calendar potentially.
Mm.
So, um, anyway, so that's what you'll see going forward. I mean, I guess let's talk a little bit, I guess, starting with um maybe this whole philosophy. And I think I can only really
just before we go to that, I think it's really important to say that herd events are being affected, and Brent and other people who are some of the and Steph who organise some of those herd events, they're having a big chat and kind of talking to James. We don't want to talk about that now until we know more. But kind of if
Yeah.
you've got any views or thoughts about that, like let the guys know, let us know, because
Uh,
they are having those conversations.
yeah. I would say if you want more information, expect a post from Marilyn on the racing Facebook page about the whole situation.
yeah. Yeah. So we'll be working through all that. Stay tuned. But I think just in terms of like as a racers and stuff, I think it's important to think about all this, generally speaking. Of course, yeah, I mean, Steve pointed out it's about getting density into races. So getting more people into the events that are on the calendar, essentially, that avoid these sort of four races starting within 20 minutes of each other, and each one of them has 5 people in it. And I mean, I think it's a good thing. Like, I only to speak for myself, I think this is a good thing that there are. I think we've all experienced it. You sit down, you look at the race calendar, you look at a bunch of events, you click on one, and everyone has, well, it starts with you see 20, and then you click on your category, and there's two in it.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah,
That's the first challenge. And if you're, I know the riders who are in the upper level category, this is a
yeah,
real problem. Like, it's
yeah,
very, very common for I don't know, it's not called A anymore, but that's 690 and up riders to like never be able to find a race that has more than 1 or 2 people in it. So I think it's good. It's really good for them.
So I will say, and this is hearsay at this point, but I know that this is likely coming as well from Zwift and is probably part of why this is important to do now to get race numbers up because I have a strong suspicion that the pen boundaries for Zwift Racing Score categorization is going to become a lot tighter in the next month or two.
So
Um,
more categories within 1 to 1,000.
yes, so that you are up against a tighter band, the racing is better, and that only works if you have more riders per
yeah,
race.
yeah. Because if you have now 5 in your current band, if you split that over 2 or 3 bands, you have 1 or 2 people, so it's the same. It's an even bigger problem. Yeah,
Yeah.
makes sense.
I mean,
this
this
is what
is
we want, right? It's kind of so. I think the thing we don't talk about enough is that the vast majority of people on Zwift don't race. So how do we convert them into people that race? We want them to jump in, do a race, have a great experience, think this is brilliant. I'm going to do that again and again and again. What are the things that are going to put you off racing? Well, you jump in and you win really, really easily. Might put you off. You get hammered, you don't ride with anyone, you're miles behind a group, that's going to put you off. I think also just kind of user experience and event confusion. So if I look tomorrow morning, 7 o'clock UK time, there are 4 races at 7 o'clock. EVR Winter Series, Rhino Racing Short Crits, TTR Climb Brother Race, and Herd Climbers Gambit. There are four people signed up to one, 4 people to another, 9 to another, 14 to another. So all got pretty small fields. If we added those all together, looking at there are more than 30 people, trying to do very quick maths in my head, that's 29 people, I think, who want to do a race at 7 o'clock tomorrow morning. If I then go to 10 past 7, there's stage 3 of Fresh Out 2024, which has got 9 people. And this is me okay, I'm looking a few hours in advance. I think Eric in his article says that most people sign up about 24 minutes before the ride. So
Yeah,
this is a bit of a poor example, but it is a very clustered calendar.
yeah,
Um, and kind of we know that Zwift numbers have declined. They're on the up because it's the winter, but in general, they've declined a bit since the pandemic. So kind of that idea of getting a critical mass into each race is a really, really good thing, a really positive thing. And I think, as Sean says, tied with that Swift Racing Score band narrowing, if you like, in races. So if you jump in, it's going to be super competitive. That can only be good. Like the ones the early races I've done with Swift Racing Score, I did one with James himself, and it felt like kind of you got a group of really strong riders, you got a group of slightly less strong riders, but they weren't miles away. But those were two decent sized groups, and everyone in those groups had a good race. Like they raced each other. Everyone was sort of at their limit, so it felt hard. But everyone sort of had that carrot dangled in front of them that they might win or they might beat people in a big group and feel good about racing. So very
it's
positive.
been it's sort of been Zwift's whole balancing act for 10 years and probably even in their beta phase, right? Like they always wanted to have that density. I mean, I heard Eric Min talking about when they built the original Jarvis Island, they're like, oh, we should put essentially pacer bots riding around, at slightly different levels, I assume. Although he didn't say that now that I think about it. Um, and then, even when they had Watopia and then a guest world, and then they decided, oh, we're going to have two guests world, right? They always wanted to control that appearance of density and uh, that feeling of that you're riding with other people. Maybe they're not your friends, but you can chat with them, and that whole dynamic. And this is really just an extension of that to our niche of racing, it feels like.
Yeah, the sign up thing, like I know this is a little outside maybe this, but the timing for sign up thing is something that I feel like Zwift should think about because it's a weird game theory problem, right? Like when am I going to sign up? I'm waiting to see who signs up for whichever one, and I guess I can not. But like I feel like they should do something like if you sign up 24 hours in advance of a race and you finish it, you should get like 15 extra XP
Mm.
or any event, right? So that like there's some incentive for people to sign up for things and
I
do them, right?
genuinely also think it's a UX problem with this. So if I go into the app now, I can see 6 races, 5 races, the latest of which, and I've got the race filter turned on, the latest of which is at 11 o'clock, so in 45 minutes time. If I'm thinking, right, I'm going to organize my day tomorrow. I want to ride at 8. I've got to sort of either scroll downloads or I can click to tomorrow. Then I've got to scroll from midnight through
Hmm.
to, and it's a bit of a scroll to get to 8 a.m. tomorrow. And that's with the filters on because I know what I'm doing. If I turn every filter off again, like that and I go through to tomorrow and I'm going to scroll to 8 o'clock. I'm still scrolling. I'm still scrolling. I'm still scrolling. I'm still scrolling. I've got to 7, still scrolling. This is a great bit of podcast. I've just got to 8 a.m. That is how hard it is for me in the Zwift app to go, I want to ride tomorrow at 8 o'clock. So it becomes easier for me to go, right, at 7:30 tomorrow, I'll get up and
Well,
I'll just see
yeah.
what race is there. I know you
Hmm.
can go online, there's websites, like you can go on Zwift Power, all these
Yeah,
things and find races there. But
but you have the companion app for a reason, for easy
exactly that.
accessibility. That's a big
Well,
Like this, I think we all know I've got views on third-party websites being the where I have to get the truth about Zwift from and how that should be in game. So.
or the other thing, of course, is they could shut down signups like an hour in advance or something too, which
That's
yeah, I don't think that's a good idea, but
yeah.
like
Yeah.
I feel like I think more carrot than stick here works. Like that's the stick. I think the carrot is better. Like just incent people to sign up. Like I
Grid
know I want to
slots.
do like race 2 today for HWR. It's at 6:50 and I'll just wait. I'll just wait till 6:50, 6:38 and then I'll click join and go in. But that doesn't like send the signal to everyone else in the
Yep.
whole Zwift world that this is a thing I want to do. And so
Right.
like if they just like gave someone some little carrot to say just sign up early so everyone else can see what you're going to do, then a lot more people would sign up earlier.
I'd,
This
I'd,
isn't
I'd make it, I'd make pen position dependent on sign up. So we know at the moment
rather
if you
than
go
when you
in
join.
half an hour before, you get front of the pen. Actually, if you did it on joint on sign up time, that incentivized, like we know there's some advantage about being, especially in big events, being further up in the pen. If you've signed on to that really, really early, you're on that front row. If you
Mhm.
sign up with a minute to go, you're going to be right at the back. Like it's not,
And
it's
that
one of
makes
those things that's
sense.
not going to be
It's a good
noticeable
one.
to the vast majority of amateur, like not amateur, but the vast majority of kind of newer Zwifters. Like I've signed up, I've gotten the race, that's fine. If you get more into racing, well, hey, how do I get further up the pen? That seems to be, right, if I go and sign up earlier, and then that would have the pushback of kind of more people being signed up, more people join the race.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's another little quirk about it. Yeah.
I,
Um,
I think another interesting piece of this is I know that a lot of us uh based on how categorization and essentially pen splits work in a lot of other games, and this is something that I think a lot of people are hoping for in Zwift is dynamic pens, so that you get, if there's not a lot of riders, you get split into broader pens, and if there's a lot of riders, you get more narrow pens. So you're actually racing, ideally getting better races from that. Uh, there's going to need to be a time at which you cut off signups. And so saying like at some point it's like, okay, maybe 5 minutes beforehand, you've got to be signed up for the race because you're getting put into a split. I think that this is maybe the way that a lot of this is going is, try to get more riders signed up earlier, cutting down races so that more riders end up in each of these races, so that you get narrower bands with a lot more riders. And then knowing what that's going to look like further out, ends up making for a better experience. And I think Steve's right. Like being able to just quickly look at when you want to race and what those races look like is is big.
This is what
Yeah,
it's always surprised me about Zwift and the companion app is that having done a bit of kind of UX stuff professionally, like if you look at Amazon or you go and buy a holiday, like those websites are designed to have like big neon signs effectively pointing to buy something here now, minimal clicks, get you through to the product or what you want to do. And it feels a bit like that doesn't happen racing. And I know with Zwift, there's a hell of a lot going on. They want you basically they want to get you in the game in any way possible. So they're probably casting that net as wide as they can. But it's
Let's just say
it's quite appropriate.
there's probably less going on in Zwift than there is on Amazon. So
Yeah, and again, we're focusing on the racing side of things, so that's kind of what we do here and stuff. But I know racing is not the biggest part of Zwift, but events I think are a huge part of Zwift. Like always the times when Zwift is the biggest, it's like is it usually Tour de Zwift or Tour Autopia is like
yeah.
January. That's usually peak Zwift,
Hmm.
right? Um, so any event, and I get like racing is the one that has the categorization parts and they got to clear stuff out to get density and stuff. But all the events making it easier is better for sure.
Uh,
yeah,
this is a
yeah.
bit of a oh, go ahead.
I was about to say I'm bolting on Steve's plan. Indeed, you have the filters for the types of races, but indeed, like a date, an hour filter, or even a search if you want. If I want to search, you can go in a club, but if you want a specific, I don't know, climbers or herd, there's no there's some filters, but some basic filters are missing to make that search more attractive to people. So definitely UX improvement that certainly can improve to facilitate people to get to a race they want to do.
I was just going to mention, since you brought up Tour de Zwift, they have announced what Tour de Zwift for 2025 will be in January. And I think that one of these courses, there are three new courses. One of these courses, Petite Douleur, um, is one that I think that Brent will quite appreciate and would probably end up being a really good HSRL course that you could do multiple laps on. You do the intestines, balloon sprint, up Petite KOM, back down, and do laps of that. Uh, so it is
Yeah,
the shortest little loop that you can do in France with essentially a finish on the Petite KOM. Um,
How was this never a thing
right?
before?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
Good course.
But yeah, could you imagine this as like I guess if you did it two laps, right, it would be three petite
Three, yep,
KOMs.
and
Oh,
three sprints.
that is just mean. Anyway. Um yeah, I don't I guess the end of the result of this sort of chat is, we be ready come December 16th to not just see your events that you maybe normally are expecting show up. You're gonna have to search them out of the herd club. If you don't like that is how I find our herd races 90% of the time anyway, for all the reasons Steve just said is the fastest way to
Yeah.
find a herd event is to
That's
go join the herd
that's the
club
bypass. Yeah.
join the herd club on companion app and then or herd racing club actually there's two different clubs. There's both a herd club which does all the group rides and a herd racing club, so join herd racing and then do club events and then you can see all the herd events. You'll be able to see all the ones regardless whether they're public or club events only, and you can go in there and sign up. If you know people that are not herd racing club members, and anyone can sign up, there's no limit. You can sign up to as many clubs as you want. I'm in a bunch of different clubs. I don't even know, chasing tours, Zwift Labs, a bunch of other stuff. So you can sign up to other clubs. So get if you know people are doing herd winter racing or they're doing Um, well, that one's not such a big deal. If they're doing Bullseye, if they're doing Stampede, and you want them Climbers Gambit, and you want them to keep racing with you, get them to join herd racing because that'll be the easiest way for them to know they can always find it. Is just go into the herd racing club in companion app, find the herd racing events, which is it's the second part of that thing. You don't have to scroll very far. Click on club events, and all the club events from herd racing will keep populating into there. Um, and otherwise they'll look the same, but just be a little bit maybe prepared that even events that used to maybe be on that middle line of getting like 15 people are probably not going to get too many anymore because they will not be publicly viewable. So there won't be people who don't know they're there or just scrolling through the race list or the event list dropping into them anymore.
Yeah, this is one of those things that even if so I think this is going to end up killing a lot of events that had a small but consistent um, number of people who regularly did those races. If those races were well attended by or consistently attended by people outside of that club, I
Yeah.
think that there's going to be a drop off in, for example, in Climbers Gambit or in Stampede of riders who, they're just not going to search it out if it's not there. Um, we'll see what that looks like going forward.
Yeah, at least for Climbers Gambit and Stampede, like they're non-draft
Yep.
stuff. You can go do your smash
It's
readers
about
instantly. Go.
doing your own effort.
Yeah. And just like listen, this is not to get into the future state of things. We'll talk about all that more as the weeks unveil here, but just like the current Stampede series ends December 28th. So really it's only 2 weeks of this happening. The current Climbers Gambler series is set to schedule
Yeah,
end of the same
that
date. So like anyway, more news to come on all that, but just I mean, really we're looking at 2 weeks of these sorts of things. It's not shouldn't be that big a deal. But just if you do chat with other people, if you chat with people who race Stampede and you're like, oh, what happened to the Stampede? Is it all gone? You got to explain to them how to get into the club events, that kind of stuff. And just like it's just as we're sitting here looking at this, I'm looking at like the Herd Club has 20,423 members. Herd Racing, 1,285. So like
Yeah. I just
6%.
joined.
Oh,
I
really? Oh,
yeah,
that's interesting.
I didn't know that there was a separate herd racing club.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
So I was looking at the herd club events and was like, where are all the races?
Yeah.
I've just been looking at the Herd Racing Club and thinking, well, why aren't the herd events in here?
There you
So
go.
There you go. Well, maybe everybody learned something new today.
I think
Uh,
kind of the last thing I'd say about this, there's obviously going to be some people who are upset that their event is going, herd event or no. And like I actually think 30 is a really sensible number. Like I think it's maybe a touch high, but kind of knowing what Sean said about the ZRS kind of bands moving closer, I think it seems like a sensible number with where the bulk of races are. And ultimately, if there weren't that many people doing the race, then kind of we haven't done a good enough job of promoting it. And I think we all have kind of some agency in that. I think it was the Herd Club Championship last year, maybe, where we did it over a week, and the bullseye was almost back to being like it was that Wednesday 7 p.m. UK time bullseye was almost back to being like um, COVID levels of participation because everyone had been really keen. We'd promoted it really well. Everyone wanted to do it. One of the guys who was doing the event, who shall not be named, in fact, was suggesting that people go into the companion app and sign up early to make it look like it was going to be a well-attended event to get more people just doing it to help the event as well. So kind of it's one of those things. It is sad news, but also it's also something we've had a lot of agency over. So kind of I think it hopefully next year gives us a bit of impetus to promote the events and just think about what's going to make some really cool events through the calendar, really.
yeah, good wake up call if you call it. See, let us make us think as organizers how to better uh, promote our stuff to the public. Maybe less is more, as they say. say less races due to less time slots. We'll see, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, this is about serving a community, and if we weren't doing that well, like, let's do it better.
Mhm.
yeah,
We were running something like 36 race lots a week. Like that's
yeah, yeah. For instance, outside of HBR and HSRL, well, we had for those 4 series, we had 22 slots, only 4 survived. So that says enough.
yeah, good, good. Yeah, we got one more. We got one more topic in us. No, we're
I think
color day.
this has been a long enough conversation already.
All right,
We had a really silly one to finish with. I think we should finish with this,
Oh, should
Sean.
we?
You
Okay.
let's
heard
do
it,
it.
yeah.
Let's do it. Go
Okay.
for it, Sean. Let's go quick.
Yeah, so I've been in the forums, in all of the discussion about racing score and okay, what pen do I end up with? And um, there have been some discussions that have come up that I think it will be pretty clear where we all fall on this, but is an interesting question. So, what is the goal of getting on events in Zwift, right? So to a lot of people, the goal is to have fun. The best way you have fun is to be competitive, for example, in a race. And so there have been a couple of people who were like, well, you know what? I should be able to just weight dope for fun. I should be able to put whatever weight makes sense for me to be able to stay in that group. Uh, and like, there are some other ways of, if if fairness is the only thing that should be promoted, uh, there is an argument to be made that steering, that a non-11 hertz trainer that allows you to do sticky watts, that there are a lot of these little things that are like, well, it's not fair because they can do that and I can't. Um, I think a lot of us are going to say, well, obviously, don't weight dope. Uh, but I do think that there is some argument for some people that like, but the point is to just go have fun. We're all not elite racers anyway. Um, yeah, so what thoughts?
I would be if I weighed 50 kilos.
Yeah.
I think it's a beginner thing. I think of, for instance, my trophy bride, right? She is not a big racer, but she started racing recently. And, as a new racer, she was in like the tiny races, I think they were called. And, big-ish groups, but she wasn't able to hold the front pack, right? And I think her experience would be enhanced by her being able to hold that front pack. So I think like if you're just getting into it, like do it to a point where you're still having fun and then you're building fitness and then you can back it off and back it off and eventually get down to your real weight, whatever real is. Not that that doesn't fluctuate, but I think there's a place for it. I mean, if you're smashing everybody every week, like I don't think you're gonna have fun doing that either.
So I
Well,
think
I'm
that
interested.
go ahead.
I was going to say, I'm really interested in what you think, Sean, because I know you play a lot of online racing games. And one of the things, like, racing games have traditionally had like a catch-up bonus. So if you're really far behind, like your car performs better and goes faster than this same car in front to help you catch up. And then that sort of gets reduced as you get closer. But it's all about making racing closer. Obviously, you can do kind of top level iRacing, the stuff you see sort of Max Verstappen do that doesn't have that. And you have to have
Yep.
kind of professional tools, the equivalent of kind of dual power recording type things. So it's at a beginner level, but it is a way of dialing the fun up. And kind of that's where I sit with is like, if it's a way of dialing the fun up, kind of
Yeah.
it's okay. If you're doing it to win races, don't be a dick. It's probably the kind of message there. But
There you go.
what do you think, Sean?
Yeah, I think that there are, right? So what is the goal of this, right? Like, what is the goal of entering races? Is it to have a good time? Is it to promote everyone in the race having a good time? Because, in that case, I do think that there is something to be said for making it easier at the back.
Mhm.
Uh, Maybe not enough to make it so that you win that race, but enough that you can hold on to the, you know, the bus at the the bus at the end. Um, I think that the strongest version of the strongest argument that I saw in favor of this was not for every race, but for a specific type of race where you essentially everyone gets a handicap, uh, so that you are expected to all have essentially this a similar ability level. Um, so whether that's based on like watts per kilo, and you take your FTP and just like normalize it so that everyone's a 4 watt per kilo rider or something like that, and just do a separate type of event that uh, where you're actually just trying to get everyone on a similar level, um, would be an interesting type of event to run.
Well, at a macro level, some of the is it the dirt series or who do the chasing rhino chasing
Yeah,
series, right? Where they really spend a lot of time with the numbers to try to make it so that all the categories are hitting the finish line at the same time, and then it's a real race with all those
It used to
people.
be when I did IRL racing 25 years ago. Right. There used to be the favourite event our club did was an Australian pursuit, and they looked at your time trial times through the year and went, "You guys do this course in about this time.
Hmm.
You're going to go in a group. You guys are a bit quicker. You're going to go in this group." And the goal was to try and have the groups catch each other near the finish. And some
Hmm.
days the rabbit stayed out and the hares didn't catch them. They didn't work well enough. And some days the hares caught you and you got shout out
I
the
think
back of that
rabbits and
group because
hares are
they're
the
going
same
quite
thing.
fast.
I think you mean fox.
Tortoise and hare,
or
rabbit and
there you
fox.
go.
Foxes
There
and
we go.
hares.
I'm gonna blame baby brain on that one.
Sorry, Steve. All right, so just to be the other side of this at least a little bit, because I get some of this point, but the whole point of racing to a certain extent is like a group contract about like what we're all in this for, right? Like I'm here to race because all of us want to race and test ourselves at our own some level of actual ability, right? Like if I go to a bike race and some dude shows up with an e-bike, he's like, "Well, I just have an e-bike here to be fun." It's like
Yeah,
that's not fun for me. So like if I get into a race and I never know at all if the person on the other end is using a drill or they're putting in 80 kilos when they're 300 kilos or whatever the trick is they're doing to cheat, whatever the thing is. Because like at the end of the day, like there's always a certain amount of uncertainty and that kind of stuff. Like there's a bit of a social contract around what constitutes the competition of the race I'm in. And as you go up in like ability, that social contract changes, right? Like there's kind of like these races that are like the sort of Zwift community races and people in Z power and all kinds of nonsense, no heart rate monitor. You can all get into it and you kind of just put up with that, right? That's what you do. Then you get to like the next level of certainty. It's like, okay, you got to at least show up on a smart trainer. You got to have a heart rate monitor on because we're at least checking you that much. Then you get to like the next level and it's like, no, you got to like do a record, you got to send in a weight verification video, and you got to do all these things, right? And so I think like if you're part of the social accord is anybody can do anything because I want to be able to stick with a group and ride. There's lots of that kind of stuff out there, right? Go ahead and ride Tour Watopia, adjust your weight, muck around, go ride with pacer bots, whatever, so you can stick in the group and you adjust your weight. Fair enough. You're like new to racing, you want to learn racing, and you're getting into weekly community races, and you're a D, maybe even a C racer, sorry guys, and you want to adjust your weight a little bit because you're tired of getting dusted off the back of the group, even at a D and C level. Fair enough. You want to go race A racers and you're going to be mucking around with your weight or anything else, get bent. Like that, like there are a lot of us. Like the year that I qualified for A, I friggin' busted my hump to get down to weight and to like get my power up so I could even qualify. Like I can always race up, but like I was over the threshold and I had to go race A. And to like try and hang with those guys, like you are working it. So like I think you are the people who are there are people who are believe that they are there because they're racing against other people who are at that level and doing the same amount of work and the same amount of heartache and sweat and tears and all the things it takes. Because I mean, Matt DeFreitas has made this point. Matt DeFreitas is 100 times the athlete I am. That those races at that level are as real as any athletic competition he's ever been in. And like Matt DeFreitas is like a world like level, just national champion level like miler. Like dude is an athlete. And he says that's like as real as anything he's in. And I think if you've watched some of those e-racers and you've watched any of those videos where they show them, it is like real. So if you're gonna show up to that kind of, and I get you can't because again, that social contract, they force you into some of this stuff. But even still, you're gonna show up at HWR and go finish in the top five against guys like Scorekeeper and I don't know who these other guys who keep smoking me. And you're gonna do it because you decided to change your weight down to 20 kilos. That ain't fun for the rest of us, right? Like there is a certain illusion to the whole thing that makes it fun for the rest of us. So just
Yeah.
at that point, don't. It's not fun for the
Uh,
rest of us.
I think that was funny. One of my ladder teammates said something similar in our group chat. He said, we're talking about. He said, I have Zwift A and B riders in his RL club, all which can drop him in Zwift, but all but one can drop him IRL. So
Yeah.
We'll tell you off non-recording about a highly entertaining chap who notoriously weight dopes in herd events. Sometimes Steph, but for those of us who were in the Sharks and rode with him, swearing at us in that time trial all the way around, you'll know who I'm talking about. And yeah, that was good fun.
Yeah, and actually, a TTT, even especially in the lower groups, like that's one I could kind of get. I get it. Like these are your friends. You guys are out to do a thing. They want to be able to ride hard, and you want to be able to ride hard. There's no other way. You know what? If you're not in the top 20 groups in the, I don't know what the top one is, the Frappuccino or whatever. Okay. Okay, whatever. Fair enough. But like you want to go try and be one of the fastest groups and you're going to do it by changing your weight?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
That's not what the
So
rest of us are there for.
so I totally agree with the at that elite level. I do think that there is not a good argument, but an argument to be made that for the beer league level riders, so most of us, uh, especially now that like categorization is going to be results based, it almost doesn't matter what you like what level you put yourself at because you're going to end up in a race where in order to keep being in those competitive ranges you're going to go to the point of ridiculousness. You're going to have to be 20 kilos to be able to keep up with the front group in the A's that you or in the like highest band of ZRS if you work your way up to that by continually doing this. So it's at the base level, like I don't have any problem with it if I'm racing against a rider in C or, at my level who does this. It's like you're making it more fun for yourself. That's fine, whatever. If you do that and you move yourself up and then you do that again to get to the next level and then you keep doing it, like where does it end? That is the point at which it's like, what are you doing this for?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
well,
guess
that's
I thought of
why
it more as a crutch. Like you're not having fun racing as a whatever, a new racer, or you're just at a point, maybe you gained a lot of weight and you're not having fun racing anymore. Like, yeah, give yourself some slack and allow yourself to hang with, I mean, it's a density thing almost, right? We're getting back to the whole density argument that like it isn't really fun to be in a race and everybody blows out of the pen and you're by yourself. You're doing a TT again. And if you wanted to race TTs, that's fine too, but you could race a TT and not have to wait to them, I feel like. So it's almost a density thing, I feel like, for newer riders who just want to be racing against people of something close to their abilities.
Yeah, I do. I think that the best articulated of all of this is just Brent is right.
Yeah.
Like I think we all completely agree, and that we're all just trying to devil's advocate for like, yeah, I can see some versions of this where it like could make some sense to make it more fun
Mhm.
for a time. But like in the grand scheme, like I think the only version of this that makes any sense is like there is no other way for you to have at all an enjoyable
Yeah.
experience in a race. And even in that case, just work a little harder and get a little faster so that you can.
Or have bigger races, more
Yeah.
people in your race, so there are people around you, like in HWR. I'm never going to win an HWR, but if it's a big field, I'm going to have fun because there are half a dozen people around me,
Yeah.
or 10 or 20.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I kind of limited to like the DC maybe. Because there isn't below that, right? If you really can't hang in the bottom race and you want to learn racing and you got to like play around with the numbers a bit so you can hang in the bottom level. Okay. Okay. I can kind of maybe get that, but yeah. Once you get into like I'm moving up a level, there's no reason.
No, I mean, yeah, and that sort of gets to what's the other person part of racing, right? You're challenging yourself, you're trying to do better, you're trying to improve certain things that you choose to try to improve. Yeah, once you hit that and you improve, like, yeah, no, you got to take that crutch away.
Yep. So yeah,
Don't do it.
please don't wait dope if you're a rider. Good. All right. On that note, we will say thank you to Sean Fogenberg. Thank you to John Keenan. Thank you to Steve Pritchard. Thank you to Steph Etchen. Thank you, and especially like this week talking about stuff. We thank everyone who's ever done herd races. We thank everyone who engages in our community. We thank everyone who listens to this podcast. I was checking the stats today, and I'm still amazed how many people listen to this thing every week. Blows my mind. So thank you to everyone. We do hope we see everyone out there this weekend at all the herd races. Moo, everybody, and good night.